Coby White just got paid after the Charlotte Hornets traded away LaMelo Ball very shortly after they announced the re-signing of Coby White. What does that mean for this team? And is Christian Anderson going to eventually take over as a starting point guard? We'll talk a little bit about that. Plus, we have major Kawhi Leonard trade smoke now. Reportedly, he will only sign an extension with the Toronto Raptors of all teams. Plus, rumors around the San Antonio Spurs and more around him. And the big one, Brian Windhorst says that Ja Morant is flagrantly available. And what does that mean for him, as it seems like Memphis is ready to fully turn the page on Ja Morant? We're getting into all that plus more right after this.
Welcome to the number one place for your daily basketball news and analysis, NBA Central.
Well, what's going on, basketball fans? Welcome to another episode of NBA Central, soon to be the Full Court Podcast. When y'all see the change of the logo, still click on the video. But with that said, welcome to another episode of NBA Central, your number one spot for everything basketball and NBA related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at NBA Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into it. We're going to get into the Coby White signing, but I figure we need to start off with this Kawhi Leonard news that's popping up. Kawhi Leonard reportedly only will sign contract extensions with either the Toronto Raptors or the San Antonio Spurs if traded, while his preference does, though, reportedly remain to stay with the Los Angeles Clippers. But much like we talked about with other players around, like the Clippers really have to take a look at what they want to do with with Kawhi Leonard and with the future of their roster, really, when it comes down to it. This one does come from Jake Fisher of the Styline that says this: Kawhi Leonard would consider signing a contract extension with only the Toronto Raptors or the San Antonio Spurs if he is unable to agree to terms on extension with the Los Angeles Clippers. Leonard, who turns 35 Monday, has 1 year remaining on his current deal at $50 million and is seeking an extension from the Clippers. Leonard stated his preferences to remain with Los Angeles. However, should no extension materialize, he holds the ability to become an unrestricted free agent next summer regardless of where he plays in 2026-27. Sources say that Leonard would not consider signing long-term with Detroit Pistons or Miami in any trade scenario, effectively narrowing his list to his two former teams. The status of the Golden State Warriors, who pursued Leonard at the deadline, is not mentioned in this report. So it seems like, based off what we know so far, is that Kawhi Leonard is interested in, if it's not the Clippers, it's the Toronto Raptors or the San Antonio Spurs. Two teams that he's played with before, I guess has some familiarity with, even though those rosters are completely different at this point in time. And so let's talk about it, right? Let's talk about all angles of this. For those that are new to the channel, we talk about all angles of the situation, like to layer the conversation in, to keep me honest in regards to it, since I'm a solo content creator. So let's talk about the Toronto Raptors. Should the Raptors pursue Kawhi Leonard? The Raptors know better than anyone what Kawhi Leonard can do when he's fully healthy. Now, the thing is, I don't think at this point in the game anybody's expecting Kawhi Leonard to be fully healthy. I think that, right? And the question that the Raptors or any other team would have to ask themselves is, how good can you be on that time period where Kawhi Leonard's going to miss 20 to 25 games during the season at minimum, right? That's what you have to ask. So reportedly, after the Toronto Raptors, who missed out on LaMelo Ball, they were kind of sniffling around there, that they still want to be aggressive this summer. This aligns with other things that we've heard about their aggression level. And it seems like, Scotty Barnes, in that defensive core that you have with Scotty Barnes, CMB, and Kawhi Leonard, that's if you're able to keep CMB. I would assume that they are going to be able to do that. I think that CMB would be a non-starter. But if he's open to extending, it means that they don't have to worry about what they had last time. That's Kawhi Leonard being a 1 year rental in regards to that. And I think with the changes that are happening in the East, Milwaukee's down. Of course, the Knicks are still going to be good, but they're going to be missing chunks of their roster as well. Boston, we don't know what's going to happen with Boston in regards to the Jaylen Brown thing. The East could be wide open. And this is where the Toronto Raptors could really want to make their swing. And Kawhi Leonard, it's a swing that they've made before, right? But I do think that to a point that Toronto doesn't want to live completely in the past. He's 30. He's going to turn 35 soon, and he does have an extremely long injury history, right? And reportedly, the deal that they would be offering is R.J. Barrett, Jakob Poeltl, and a pick. And so I don't know if I look at that like, yeah, Jakob at this point is a bad contract. No disrespect being meant to Jakob, but at this point he's a bad contract. If Jakob was going to be guaranteed to stay fully healthy, of course that changes things. We already heard that the Toronto Raptors are interested in moving R.J. Barrett to get another star in there, and so that's what they're looking at. Keep in mind, this is a team that just drafted Allen Graves as well, a player that I actually like for them a lot. I think he fits where they want to go there. They also could throw in Grady Dick as another player that, a young player with some upside that the Los Angeles Clippers could want to take a look at and develop in that time and go all youth if that's what they're going to end up doing. So I think it's there, and I think it could make some sense. Now, nostalgia doesn't always mean that you're going to get right back to contention, right? That's a problem there. But I think overall this is that, if they end up paying for the memory of what 2019 was, instead of living in the reality of now where you are in 2026, 7 years removed from that, I just don't know if that would be the best move for the Toronto Raptors. Now, the Spurs angle of it is interesting, right? A reunion would be wild with the San Antonio Spurs, but it's the breakup there was still nasty, right? Now, of course, that they've completely changed, new front office, new head coach, that type of stuff. Now, would he fit the Kawhi, the Wemby timeline or disrupt it, right? Sometimes you add a veteran and it helps extend your timeline. The Spurs were very smart in the draft, getting Terrace Reed. I love that. Jaden Quaintance is a player that in long term, you're going to see how he ends up turning out. Like, injury wise, you don't know anything right now, but it would feel like a movie storyline for Kawhi to go back to either one of these spots. God forbid if they're able to actually go on some type of finals run, it would seem like the making of like a Disney movie. So that's what you have to ask yourself in regards to this one. Kawhi is going to be an interesting piece to watch the rest of the way through. Hell, we didn't even expect LaMelo Ball to be moved, and that whole thing materialized in 24 hours. You got Ja that's still available. You got Number. We'll talk about Ja a little bit. Like, I don't know what's going to happen out here, but this offseason is about to get a little funky. And I kind of like that from a content creator standpoint, but from a basketball standpoint, there's a lot of questions that's going to be raised. But one of the players that got a question answered is Coby White. Coby White got paid, right? Coby White got a 3-year, $74 million deal to stay with the Charlotte Hornets. This deal came down shortly after the LaMelo Ball trade went down, because there was some talk that maybe the Charlotte Hornets weren't going to retain Coby White. So now he signed a 3-year, $74 million deal, so over $20 million per, which is good for Coby White, right? And so, this is a player that they acquired at the trade deadline last year from the Chicago Bulls for Colin Sexton and 3 second-round picks. So they didn't give up a lot for him. You end up turning around and paying him. And now, he was expected to receive interest from Detroit Pistons and some other teams. In 21 games last season for the Charlotte Hornets, he averaged 15 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists in 19 minutes per game. In 29 games with the Bulls last season, he averaged 18.6 points, 3.7 rebounds, and 4.7 assists. This is a guy that's a career 36% three-point shooter. And so even though the Charlotte Hornets maybe have drafted their point guard in the future in Christian Anderson, who I actually do like a lot for them, they now have another player in Coby White who's ready. He's played off players his whole entire career between DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, even Josh Giddey. And so now you have it's Coby White, Con Knipple, Brandon Miller as things stand right now. They also drafted Heinz Steinbach, who I really like for that team, to go along with Moussa Diabate, Ryan Kalkbrenner. They got Naz Reid back in the trade. So this is a Charlotte Hornets team that, while they lost the star power of LaMelo Ball, is still a very deep team. But the question many people are asking for in regards to this one is that did they make the right call? And I think this is a smart move for them because he's stable. He's a professional league guard, and he's a solid enough player. Is he a star? No, but he can shoot. He can score. He can play either guard spot, which can open up how you end up doing there. And I also think, listen, at 3 years, it's slightly over, at over $20 million. It's not a crippling franchise-altering deal. So I think also with the trade exception that they created as well, like they have a lot of flexibility here. You needed clarity after you trade LaMelo Ball, and that's what it comes down to. Now, I do feel like this is a move that, what does it do really to your ceiling? Coby White is good, but he's not a franchise-leading point guard. That's the reality of it, right? And $74 million, while a lot of money, is a commitment that, he's a high-level combo guard, and that's perfectly fine, right? And so now you've replaced LaMelo Ball with a player that brings stability but doesn't bring the same upside and not the same star power, which is perfectly fine there in the small sample size of 21 games. You can take that, you can look at it. It is what it is. He keeps them competitive, but he's going to have to take a lot more to make them truly dangerous next season. And that's where the story lies in for Coby White and what's going to happen there. This is the classic NBA rebuild question in a lot of ways. It comes down to, what do you chase? Do you chase upside forever, or do you finally just bet on dependable production? And that's what Coby White basically is. He's dependable production. There are some times in some lineups and matchups where Coby White he's had long stretches of going cold over the course of his career with the Chicago Bulls. I would know that just as good as anybody else because as me being a Bulls fan, I've watched all of Coby White's career. But he is a solid player, and we're not going to act like Coby White's a bad NBA player. And now it looks for like Con Knippel is the face of that franchise to go along with Brandon Miller. And Coby White is a player that does not get in the way of that and actually can support those guys in their pursuit of that. And I think that's not a bad thing at all. So we'll see what the future holds for Coby White. Last topic of the day before we get out of here is what's going to happen with Ja Morant. According to Brian Windhorst, Ja Morant is flagrantly available, as I don't tongue-tie myself on that one. I don't even know what that means, right? Listen, I don't know, like, what the hell does that even really mean, right? But with that said, Brian Windhorst says this, flagrantly available. Couldn't be more available. If Ja had 1 year on his contract, I think would have been traded months ago. This is a reasonable risk. He is super motivated to have a big-time year, but he has 2 years on his contract, so if you trade it and it doesn't work out, you're left with an unpalatable amount of risk. This is the thing. Memphis is pivoting. They're done with this. They traded Bane. They traded Jackson. They want to make Boozer the centerpiece of their team. That's it, right? So Brian Windhorst is flat out saying that Ja Morant's time in Memphis is done, right? When he asked this, he said this as well in regards to, he asked if it was just a matter of time. He says this, it's not really a question for the Grizzlies. They're going to really try to trade him. I think we're probably seeing the last moments of Ja in a Grizzlies uniform. It just depends on how it's going to play itself out. If they're looking to totally reset the franchise, Cam Boozer's selection at number 3 is part of that. So that's it. Like, it seems like Ja Morant's days in Memphis are done, right? Is Memphis right to move on? Yeah. They've already moved on from basically every key piece from that prior era. Ja Morant is the last motherfucker standing, right? Cam Boozer at number 3 is a chance to really pivot. You got Cedric Howard last year. You got some young players there. And Ja Morant's contract, of course, does hinder some things there. But I think a cleaner future and a cleaner roster reset, you get that done without Ja Morant being on that roster. That's just the reality of it. If you wait too long, your leverage get even worse, if you can even say that you have leverage, right? Now, the thing with this is that, are you selling Ja Morant low? Yeah. Ja Morant has the potential to be an explosive guard in this league. We all know that. And I do think with the right change of scenery that Ja Morant could still help a lot of teams. Make no mistake about that. I think, if he gets that change of scenery and it really does wake him up and he gets back to the player that people were talking about at one point and asked the question, could he be the next face of the league? Then yeah, you're getting a great player in Ja Morant. But at the same time, the Memphis Grizzlies can't wait on this theoretical value to go back up. You got to strike because it can only go down in regards to that, right? 2 years left on the deal means that it's a risk, and it's a risk for any team that's taking on him as well. But I think you're not going to get a star-level return, but you have to come to terms with that and realize you're not getting a star-level return. That's not happening. You had to trade him 4 years ago to get that done, and that's it. Teams are, of course, scared of the downside of trading with Ja Morant, but the upside there is still very well into that. So when you look at the teams that could be interested in him still, the Pelicans, they reportedly are looking for a star guard. That can make some sense. Also, the Pelicans are a team that owns all their first-round picks, and they may do something stupid. Right now, I don't know if that, but you pair Ja with this draft made in Zion Williamson, maybe you can make something happen, right? The Timberwolves would have been a fit, but that's gone now. LaMelo's gone. LaMelo's there. They're off the board. The Heat, I don't think that they have the assets anymore to trade. Now, the Heat could very well wait this out to Ja Morant's value is at dirt cheap and then try to use maybe Wiggins' contract to partly match that. They can sit Nikola Jovic there as well. That can help with that some, but that's really it that you're looking for. So I think that's really all it is at this point in time, right? The Raptors are another team that if they miss out on Kawhi Leonard could pivot towards Ja, and then also maybe the Phoenix Suns, right? The Phoenix Suns could be a team that also wants to make a pivot to add that point guard to go and use Jalen Green's contract, and maybe that's the best that the Memphis Grizzlies can get in that case. So I do think that Ja Morant is the type of player that could help turn your franchise around, but he also could be one that could completely throw you off. If he's not motivated and he does not get back to what he was before, I guess we're just seeing into this one. So there are a number of things to watch. Kawhi Leonard, Ja Morant, they're on trade watch. And I guess we'll see what's going to happen there, man. But thank you guys for tuning in to this episode of NBA Central. Let me know your guys' thoughts down below. Do you like the Coby White trade? Do you think Kawhi Leonard's future is in his past with the Spurs or the Toronto Raptors? And do you think Ja's going to be moved? And is Memphis going to like the deal when it's all said and done? Let me know that down below. Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell if you never want to miss an episode or an upload. You can follow us at NBA Central Pod Send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, NBA Central Show at gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, 773-270-2799. We're the number one spot for everything basketball related. And I'll catch you guys the next time I feel like making a video. Hopefully tomorrow, right? Hopefully another trade doesn't go down where I'm making a video at like 11 o'clock at night, but you never know. That's the NBA offseason. Love you guys. Peace.
Been a presentation of the Break Media.